I have a pre-seed fund. I have such a good co-founding team. I could not get better. Whenever you're like trying to get into a product business, try to bring in creativity. Bad product, good marketing works, but great product, bad marketing
doesn't work.
does not work in any case or scenario.
Hi, Arpita.
Hi, Shasta.
Arpita, most SEO tools today just tell you what to do.
Yeah.
You decided to build one that actually does it for you.
Exactly.
Where did that idea come from?
See, if you actually see that around 70 crore searches are happening right now on ChatGPT, and this Google searches that are currently happening, 60% of those Google searches are not even resulting in just a single click. This statistic made me understand that there is a need for this tool, which is not only concentrated on Google, but it is also concentrating on AI visibility, like brand visibility on AI as well. So that is how it came. And also, like after my college, I was working as a web development agency for 2 months. So during that time, I used to deal with clients where they used to like complain, can you also look after our SEO? Can you also look after our on-page optimization? So at that time, we were like, okay, this is something that we can help you, but this is something like a long-term strategy. I cannot do a on-page SEO for once in 1 month, and I would expect it to like go ahead and work it for like say the next year as well. So we realized there is a need for an automation to step in, so that the clients or like any customer that is coming and like has this need does not have to spend like 30,000 on just small changes of SEO.
So what does TrendSync actually do?
Our idea and our vision with TrendSync is to become an execution tool when it comes to SEO.
Okay.
Our main customer base is SMBs and MSMEs, mostly that do not have that much, I would say, that much revenue in order to invest into SEO agencies, or you would say developers. So we are targeting them because this is something that would help them get their brand visibility at a very affordable rate.
And how does it work?
It's very easy to work. So you go on our website, you put your website in there. So either we currently have 2 connectors, WordPress and like a custom developer made connector. So you can go ahead with your website. The website information is being analyzed, and according to that, you suggested keywords, metadata, title tags. Currently, since it's like the very first product that we have put out, we have kept the changes that we can do to your content at a minimum level, so that we can track whatever ranking changes that we are doing to it. Eventually, our aim is to become like an automating tool that will help every process of a SEO end to end.
What makes TrendSync meaningfully different from other AI SEO tools?
Other AI SEO tools mostly focus on like what type of analysis we can do. So they would suggest you go ahead and do this changes on your website, go ahead and update your code base, download these files. What we are trying to do is that we are trying to replace the whole SEO agency and developer need that is needed. So even though there are similar tools that are doing this, they are mostly focusing on keeping at least one human in the loop, and we are trying to eliminate the need of human in this whole process.
So what do most SEO tools today get wrong?
So I think currently what most of the tools are getting wrong is that they are not understanding that most of the users, that the user base are mostly like a small team which either do not know that this kind of organic traffic is being missed by them, or second, they are like assuming that their tool owners are like people who know, but the people who know either will hire a developer or will hire an agency. There is no in between is what the tools are not trying to get. So that is one thing that I think the SEO tools are not able to. Like there is HRS, yeah. What they do, they are like a tool for everyone.
Yeah.
So everyone can use. Whereas what we are trying to do, we know that SEO is something that is mostly concerned with SMEs and MSMEs. They are only the ones who are going to be actively looking into their data on, why is this not coming, and they are the people who are not able to understand the market of these AI tools and how to get AI visibility. So that is the small segment, like those are our ICPs. MSMEs and SMEs.
So the people that really need to get their website out there and they have no idea how.
Exactly. And those are the people who are continuously in business, but they might or might not have the technical person to understand.
Before this, what were you doing?
Okay, so before this, during my college third year and fourth year half, I would say, I was working on my blockchain startups. So it was in the field of NFTs. We used to mint NFTs for sports players. So these sports players used to use that NFTs whenever they want to raise their crowdfunding campaign. And whenever that NFT used to like go towards the investor, basically people who are investing in the crowdfunding campaign, we would get a royalty. So that was like the whole concept of
Wow,
that.
that's very interesting.
Yeah, it was. I think my first product, difference between my first product and what I'm working on, the first product was like very unique. Like it was something
Yes.
when whenever I used to tell people, you know, this is something, and then they are, oh, this is something that has not been thought about. And the second product is something people would something like, oh, there are a lot of tools. But right now I am more into like just sticking to one thing. So even though right now I'm getting the feedback, you know, this is something generic. And you know, there's something that is already, you have so many competitors. So like maybe, you know,
But do you have direct competitors?
we do, as I said, the one competitor that I have, that is Rise AI. But again, they are working towards having at least one human in the loop. So what they do is like they basically assign brand managers for every company that comes to them. So they're trying to have like a human in the loop. And what we are trying to do is to eliminate that
The human. So you went from blockchain and sport to building an AI SEO product. What happened in between?
Okay, so I started my blockchain startup because I was a gymnast. I am
Oh,
a state
wow.
level gymnast.
Wow,
yes,
that's
yes. I
amazing.
used to do it then around my 10. And I think from the beginning I had two passions. One was like to do something of my own and like to have an impact on the same, or like do something in sports. So I think the latter took the priority.
And then what happened with the blockchain startup?
Okay, so blockchain, as you know, government put like a 30% tax on blockchain. So that's why most of our peers pulled out. And I realized that if I want to do something in blockchain, I need to go global. And I did not have plans to leave India anytime soon. So I thought that's instead of like that, let's get into this whole new field of AI that is moving.
You mentioned you grew up in a marginalized community.
AI.
How did that influence your decision to become a founder?
I think one of like the greatest, I have been raised in a household where I think Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar was someone who was very much idealized. So whenever I was like even working at anything, they're like, you know, take inspiration from him, learn from him. Like he got out of such adverse conditions with such less things that were in his hands. So I think he was very much like this figure that had helped me in every part of my life. So he was again always the role model for anything that I used to do right from the point that I grew up. And like usually, like at least in my community, there are not very much business owners. Like at least the community that I grew in, they are mostly like, you know, government job law. And like you have good chances into getting like a government job, so why not go there? But I always realized that, you know, these things, again, short-term happiness, but long-term, the dream that I have of like leaving an impact and like changing people's life, that goal is not somewhere being fulfilled. So that's how, I think that's how it had impacted me, because I would say I come from a somewhat privileged family compared to other people from my own community. So I always felt that I have this commitment towards the society to like do something better for my own people and everyone.
So why not take a stable job instead of just starting another venture?
Okay, I think like as I said even before, impacts and like training people's life is something that I have been like, you know, like those kind of values and habits is something that I have been grown up with, inculcated in me. So I always thought that a job or like a stable thing would never be helpful for me to fulfill that lifelong goal.
Did you feel ready when you started this company?
I never feel ready. Even before coming for this interview, I did not feel ready. I was like, it's the next week. Am I actually ready? But I think one thing that has like really, one thing that I have learned throughout my way is that you're never ready. So it's so much better to just go ahead and take those chances, because it's always like when you are not coming from the same network of people, like even the college that I attended did not have that much good of alumni. So I knew that I had more work to do when it comes to like networking people, to let you know the people are at least in business. So one thing that I've like learned is like just take the shots. Even if it works or not, you will at least be somewhere rather than just like, you know, thinking. Sure, not sure.
Do you feel pressure to succeed?
I don't know. I think there are so many days where I'm just like thinking on right, am I really doing it right? Because you know, there are not very much role models, at least in my community, or like someone who is in my family who is doing the same thing, or even the people who were doing it and they needed to get jobs. So everyone like some or the other way, everyone keeps asking that you know, okay, you're doing it, but are you sure this is going to get succeeded? You have not yet had any success before, or like you shut down your previous venture. So like the doubts come every day. But I think this is like, I'm in my 20s. This is the best time in my life. I have a crazy fund. I have such a good co-founding team. I could not get better. So I'm in such a position that I am so open to like explore and to take the ideas and get into so many things and experiment and forward and do so much things. So why should I let these beliefs? And I think I'm in the best position right now. But I don't know if the war of, I get suggestion that, go 4 or 5 years job and then continue. But I don't know if I'll be ever in a better situation like I am today. So let's go ahead.
So once you decided to build TrendSync, what was your first real step?
I think marketing. I think during my training years, I did not even have an Instagram channel. When I had started, I did not had like a LinkedIn page. But I always used to believe in like working quietly. Work quiet and let your work make noise. But I think I regret that choice because I think if I had from the very beginning built in public, which is what I'm doing currently, and like let people know what are the steps I'm taking, what are the results.
Yeah.
So it's very important to own your own narrative.
What was that moment when the idea came to you to build an AI-based SEO tool?
I think, as I said, after my college, we used to work like a web development agency. At that time, it wasn't confirmed whether I had gotten a patent or not. So we wanted to like go ahead and like search and like what we can do on our own, like what is it's in business. And during my first idea, I was very much concerned. Like, oh, is it unique enough? Is it like something that nobody else is doing in the entire world? Yeah. So I was very much concerned with that. And during my second startup, like being a second-time co-founder, I made sure that even if I'm getting into a generic business, I learn something and get an insight that I would be able to make money. So even though it might be a very much like a tool that everyone is doing, I wanted to make sure this was something that will make me on money, and then we can later think about it getting unique once I get the correct customer being about.
So you were already building websites with your co-founders?
Currently, actually, they both were into freelancing even during their college days. So they had built their thing, and I was into marketing. So we got like a very good combo. So one will handle the marketing, one will handle the website. So that is what made us start and get it from web development and everything. And I think that taught us a lot. As you asked me about the TrendSync. So when we were like communicating with clients, so we used to tell them that we also do AI agents. And we're like, oh, what is AI agents? And we had to tell them everything from scratch. We can do this, we can automate your LinkedIn, we can automate your Instagram scripting process, we even like having our own AI avatar who would speak on it, your business probably have. So that was something that we realized most of the business owners knew, but they're like, okay, what tools to use? Okay, how do you go ahead? And I think lots of people get it wrong that, you get those reels, build your AI agent in 8 minutes. But AI agents is not just about building, it's about maintaining them. Like even if you tomorrow build your own AI agents, like the maintenance part, you always need, like if there is a bug that is coming up, if there is any kind of code error that is coming up, and if there is like a non-technical person or a business owner who is handling that, he won't be able to solve that bug. So let's stop using that.
Yeah.
So that's where we realize that, business owner, even if he has some sort of technical skill, if he goes ahead and starts his own AI agent, he won't be able to sustain it. And at the end, he'll be like, well, higher. And that's where we got it.
Do you think AI is overhyped?
I'm thinking of putting it in a way that would also not hit them high with that. I think it is in a way, in certain things, it still is lacking. But I don't think it's overhyped because it does have that much potential. Like it is causing layoffs and it is causing so much automation and the growth of so many AI companies. If you have seen the YC, like the Y Combinator cohort, almost all companies were AI. So its skills might be a little bit overestimated, but I don't think it's overhyped.
So from the point when you all decided to switch from service-based to completely automated, how long did it take you all to actually build the first tool?
I think it took us a month and a half. So we realized this was quite insight that is no one else is talking about.
Yeah.
It's not your MVP, even though people say, just launch it, let's see. But your MVP is like your first thing that people see.
Yes.
If that fails or that is something that is not good enough for people to like continue, people won't be giving you a second.
Yes.
Because the market is very harsh. At least if you're in a competitive market.
Yeah.
So we made sure that whatever product that we are building, it is not just doing some sort of like chote boy trainers, but it is making like an impact or like it is showing them a significant organic growth in their own brands. So we took a while to build our MVP. Again, that was possible because we had a pre-seed funding. It is not possible for everyone. But that is one insight that I think very much is being said. Just go ahead and launch your MVP. But the market does not give you a second chance.
Where did you get your seed funding from?
Okay, so seed funding was something that was provided by my mentor. So he was working with another incubation center. So at that time I was in my college and he had said that why don't you apply for this funding? We would get it. So I had applied for the funding and we got it. And after that, yeah, that's how I
But that was funding through an incubator.
And it was Women's Ideathon. It was organized by Ministry of MSME. So every year they have this Women's Ideathon and you don't have to submit your own idea. And if they find it interesting, they give you around 15 lakh. You just have to show your reports and give your monthly reports and tell them where you have spent the money. And we have some rules and regulations towards how the grant, but this is like an equity free funding which you will not have to even give back. So every women entrepreneur I get, I just like tell them, I shout at them, go ahead and
apply for it. And so how much of that 15 lakhs did you all use to build this tool?
We took very small salaries during the time because we had to justify our parents also that this is not something that we're doing it essay. So I think we used up about 1 lakh during the time.
Okay.
Yes. Like for like taking into account whatever posting of APIs and like trials and errors and including salaries and like
That's
onboarding.
amazing.
Yes. We always think that we should be of like a frugal mindset. But I think that has been a little bit changed because I have been advised that, if you have the funds, why are you not going all in? You want to have this funds for forever, right? These funds would be getting spent in somewhere not. We others. So why are you not using the funds to your full potential? So that is also something with like taking risk and spending in general because I have been raised in a frugal environment. So the concept of like just spending large amounts of money into like a service and giving something, I'm already like, I'll do it. I'll do the marketing.
Do it yourself.
I'll do the editing, and that's what I'm doing right now. But I think that is something that I need to come out of being like frugal and spending.
Yeah. So you talk a lot about your mentor.
Yeah,
Tell us how you found this mentor.
Okay, so his name is Dinesh Isnani. So basically, he had come to a college to like give a talk. So this is his favorite thing that any college he goes into. What he does is that he sits down with the students and before the event he asks that, what are you doing? What are you building? And at that time, I had questioned my idea because sir, I'm thinking about this. That, at that time, I don't think I had even read a pitch deck about it. So I had just like thought about this idea. We had like a co-founders and everything. But we had not acted upon it. And sir said, this is like a brilliant idea. And when sir gave a talk, he also highlighted. So I think that confidence boost I got, that was a very emotional thing that I had gotten from him. And he's very good. I would say he's a very good speaker. When you talk with him, he has that sort of charisma that he has, which automatically gets transferred to you. And apart from that, the two biggest opportunity that he gave me, one was the entry to University Startup World Cup that was being held in Denmark. And our team represented India in all 80 countries and we were finalists over there. And second was the pre-seed funding that we had got in form of a government grant. So two biggest opportunities was because of him. And we are still connected with him. He is the CEO of that incubation center, which I am currently being instigated.
So tell me about the incubator that you're a part of.
Okay, so it's called Riot Incubation, Entrepreneurship and Innovation Center. It's a non-profit. So basically what incubators are, they help you even though if you are from like an ideation phase, you're in prototype stage, or you're at least pre-revenue stage, incubators help you guide, mentor, get funding, help you make your pitch deck, reach out the right people, like network people. So this is what basically an incubator does, and that's what we are. into. So that's what we are incubated in for. And currently we are getting all those facilities and are getting supported. There are two types of things. One is like an accelerator, one is an incubator. So accelerator are mostly for people who are already generating revenue and they want to take it at the next step. So this is like the incubation center that we are getting incubated at. We have also got our own co-working space through that incubation center, and it is like all the people who are working there all have their own thing. So it is always like a great pleasure to work with like-minded people because you get motivated yourself to like work. So that's how the journey has been working so far.
How many customers do you have today?
Currently we have 25 in total, 10 who would be ready.
Wow, that's great.
The aim is to have at least 1,000 users by the mid of March. So let's see how that works.
And how did you get these first 25 customers?
Okay, so mostly how much ever I had learned during the previous startup and whatever I learned through YouTube videos of saying Sam Walter and everyone that your first customer should be your friends, families and the people you're working with. So these are all the people that I've met through like co-working and those are my friends and families and like the people who I'm great through networking. If this product does not maybe fails to like stand on the parameters on where they wanted it, at least it will be the people that I know. Like quickly like do the let's say do the updates quickly and it won't very much like impact our image as a brand. So that's why I think it's very important to like have your friends and family and the people who you know that would trust you to give you a second chance as your first customers. I have a WhatsApp group of all the people who are like using our products so that whenever anything like they have a doubt or they want some consultation, like people come to us for the consultation, like you know, if we are using your tool, what should we put in our content? So that's something that we also consult. So yeah, we have like a close-knitted group for now.
That's nice. So what's been the hardest part of building TrendSync so far?
I think the hardest part is telling people on how this would actually be a better choice versus like an SEO agency or any other competitor. As I said that people already think that, you know, this market is very much saturated. There are already clients, like why should I not go ahead with them? So giving people that one good trust factor to trust in this is something that has been like a hardest challenge. That building the product and everything, it was very simple. Simple as in simple how I did, but I just saw them build it. So I think building the product is one thing, but selling and like I heard this quote somewhere that even if you have like the greatest product in the world, but you're not able to sell it, if you're not able to market it properly, it is as good as being like it just not being a great product. So bad product, good marketing works, but a great product, bad marketing
Doesn't work.
does not work in any case or scenario. Unless someone does like an organic word of mouth. But even then it takes time to like boost it, and that's like a one-off situation.
So what kind of marketing are you focusing on to build your product?
I think every type of marketing, as I have mentioned before. So from very beginning, I was not a social media girl. But the moment I like stepped in and like I saw other founders building, and I saw like, you know, the massive potential that it holds as like a personal brand, I realized this is the opportunity that if I'm missing, then I'll be like the dumbest person in the room. Like, why am I not utilizing it? So I think that is something that is that I'll be working. I post every day on LinkedIn and Instagram, and I also do it on Reddit, and we do it on Twitter also. Twitter and Reddit are a little bit inconsistent because we are still trying to understand on like what works and what does not. And YouTube is like whatever I post on Reels goes on YouTube.
What's working best for you so far?
LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn.
Yeah.
People say that LinkedIn is boring, but I love LinkedIn.
Has it brought you some interesting business?
Yes, it has. I think the majority of my clients are from LinkedIn because LinkedIn people know that this is business. Instagram, you know, you do get, I think I got around 3, I would say search inquiries, but you know, Instagram, people forget to DM. People are so much distracted. Like, you know, this comes in, they forget that the DM goes below. So I think Instagram is very good if I have to like tomorrow make people recall my brand, but for sales it might not be that good. So for sales strategy, outreach and everything, cold DMing and emailing. So for that I mostly rely on LinkedIn. I have not yet tried for cold emailing as well. I am mostly going bullish on LinkedIn.
Do you feel it helps to be a young girl building a startup in
It
India?
does. I would be networking, like when you go ahead and like tell people like you're doing this and like you have some sort of credibility. So I think one of the very good advantages is that I have like a pre-seed funding and the Denmark thing, which helps in building credibility. Because I think if did not had those two things, I would not be able to speak such authoritatively. Whenever you're like trying to get into a product business, try to bring in credibility. It could be in the form of hackathons, it could be in some form of like a government grant. Try to bring some sort of authority. It could be also in like the fact that you have lots of social media followers. So you know the content game. And once you have cracked the content game, it's very easy to convert them into like a distribution and things. So I think you have to build like at least top 3 fast credibilities in order to give yourself the authority to speak as a person who is like trying to sell.
Have you ever felt like you weren't technical enough to be in the software space?
No, because it's all because of my co-founders, because they have the answer to everything. So I think I never felt like underprepared when it comes to technical. Because the team that we have is such dynamic that whenever we get into any space, we know the space inside and out. So it comes very hard, and I don't think there has been any instance in our business or like company or even any client meeting that we have ever missed any technical questions. So I think that I'm very lucky with that.
That's amazing.
Yes.
How did you meet your co-founders?
So we had 3 co-founders, Kalpesha and Anjali. I went Kalpesha in my junior college, and during that time also we were like we had set up a stall in college, and after that also we had like working on our own sustainability startup we had started, and after that we started the blockchain startup, and this is like technically our third startup together. So I knew Kalpesha,
And she's a software developer.
she is a software developer, and Anjali was Kalpesha's friend through engineering college. So that's how we met. And I think, I met so many founders that, say that the co-founders did not like work out or everything. And I think it's very important for the co-founder to be your best, okay? In order to like, because the best co-founder dynamic is that you trust each other even though there is no contract. We have nothing written legally, but you still trust that co-founder. So, of course, you should have your own contract as well. But the moment you are trusting each other, even when there is nothing in legal that has been written down, there are no rules, there are like no legalities about decision, about like what the equity structure would be. I think that is when you know that you have found the one. The moment you trust the person, and it is always something that I put importance on whenever like some other co-founders ask me that, how do you find your co-founders? Because we found one co-founder, he or she later lost the interest and they just went away. So it is very important to like work with your co-founders and like at least see how the working dynamic is there. Because the moment you work with them, there are these traits that you decide, like if they are not prioritizing, they'll be like, today I have this 1,200, right? Today I have to work here. Today I won't be present. But the moment they become like very much spontaneous, they'll be like, we should shoot this reel for you here. The moment they start looking out for you, the moment they start looking out for your own needs beyond the business, is then you know that you have found the co-founder.
That's awesome. For all the people who are marketers and don't have tech capability, how would you suggest they go looking for the right co-founder to help them build a tech-based platform?
Okay, so first of all, the best co-founder are your best friends, whoever you are already in contact. If those are not there, then go for like your college friends that you already know. Basically, be with someone who you have been in connect for longer than 1 year. So if you, or at least you have worked with them on something, like it could be, if you are in college, it could be a mini project, major projects, you work together in groups. So once you know their working style, once you know the commitment that they give, so that you understand whether they are in there for a longer term. Sometimes it does happen when you are like in a networking event, or like if you have put out a post and someone reaches out and then you have a working dynamic, even that works. But it is very important for you to together work on something for longer than a year before like establishing anything legally. So I think that is important for anyone finding a co-founder.
What belief about startups have you completely changed your mind about?
Earlier, I did not used to focus on revenue. I used to be like, I should make this product and see where it goes. Because the advice that I got through seeing YouTube videos is like, go ahead, build a product and everything. But again, big advice given by people who thought that, we'll eventually figure out everything. But I think revenue was something that I did not give that much importance, and that is what has changed. And secondly was the thing about marketing. I did not market myself anyway because I thought that, if it's good enough, it will take off. So that was the second thing, was marketing. That has changed.
You're an all-women led company. How does that work?
I would suggest everyone to go for a women co-founders because their bond is so much different. So the dynamic thinking that we can do, and it has really helped us develop ways which work for us, which I think really helped us shape on how we are today. So it really helps when you have a women co-founder because the level of understanding that you get or the level of experimentation, because I don't think I have yet to see a all women led startup who is building in public. I've seen solo women founders who are building in public. So that is something that I have yet to find a role model. But we are enjoying the process, and there is just always so much of a deeper level of understanding. Because we know that even if we have a sort of dispute or we have some sort of conflict, next day one of us is going to call, they'll be shut up and sit here and we're going to discuss this every day.
Sort it out.
Yeah, this level of authority and then this level of kindness and empathy. Because I have worked with in my previous startup, we had onboarded some women men, and whenever we used to talk with them or anything, they used to always say these things as excuses, or you're working hard enough. So I think the trust factor that you just have to trust the person who is in front of you. I think we subconsciously follow this game theory. So basically there is a game theory which suggests that the best way or the best possible way to win is to just trust the person who is in front of you, because that's the best way in order if you have to win any game. So there is this game, if you know, that if two people both say yes, both win $100. If one says no, one says yes, the person who is saying yes, he gets around $10. But if both say no, both get nothing. This was an experiment that was conducted, and there were lots of probabilities that were thrown into this game, and the best winning probability was the one where both of the parties decided to just trust each other. So that's what the game theory that we used in our working, because it releases you with so much stress. So I think the best way for any partnership to work is to have this blind trust or something.
This was a great chat, Arpita.
Yeah.
Your clarity of thought will take you places. And I'm sure this interview will inspire a lot of young women to get out there and start their own companies.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was nice chatting.
Yeah.
If you like this video, click here for more conversations with young founders as we dive into the realities of building companies, making difficult decisions, and learning through the process.